Welcome back to more Cake Yes Mom Badass Head of Art. I'm your girl Jalena, and today is another Fake It With Me. We are going to make a very special flavored cake. Now, it may seem a bit abnormal, and I just want you to bear with me as I go through the process. Now, the reason it may seem a bit abnormal is because there's flavors here that you probably didn't think went really well together. It is pretty much my favorite cake of all time I've ever baked before. It is so delicious. So delicious. So let's go ahead and get started. I got all my ingredients out. Let's get to it. So what I'm going to be using today is, as always, for my base is Betty Crocker, her super moist white cake. Hashtag not sponsored. Hashtag Betty Crocker, you can sponsor me if you like. Now I need to make a lot of cakes because my cake is pretty tall. So I'm starting with 2 boxes and I have to double up all the recipes for it. So 2 cake boxes plus 6 eggs. That's 3 eggs per box. You want to make sure you're cracking your eggs in a separate bowl so that way you don't get eggshells in your cake mix. That is a beginner oopsies. So make sure you're doing that. I like to just pour it all in there. I don't care about 1 egg at a time. I don't have time for that. And I'm going to put my oil. Again, we're doubling up the recipe. So it's 2/3 cups of oil because there's 2 cake mixes. And then I'm also going to add almond milk instead of water. I can replace that. You can replace it with regular milk, or you can keep it with water. You can use creamer. I like to use the almond milk. So I'm going to go ahead and add the, how much is that? 1/4 cup. So I'm doubling that up. So it's going to be actually 2 cups and 2 4th cups. And now I'm adding a couple of tablespoons of the almond extract and a couple of teaspoons of powdered cinnamon. And the link is down below for the entire recipe. Okay, and we want to mix this until it's nice and smooth, and then we're going to pour it in our 8-inch pan that's aligned with parchment paper at the bottom. You want to fill your pan up 1/3 of a way up. Another little trick I like to do, I don't know if you can see them on camera, but there's like air bubbles all hanging out right here, right? So what I like to do before I put my cakes in the oven is tap it down on the table. That will release some of the air that's in my cake, so that way there's no holes in my cake, because that'll mess with the structure of it. So we're gonna go ahead and just tap it down on our table a few times, and then you may not have noticed, but some of those air bubbles are now rising to the top and they're popping, right? And they'll rise even more when they're in the oven and pop even more, so that way there's no holes and it doesn't mess with the interior integrity of our cake. Now for the buttercream, you can find the recipe down at the link below, but just so you can see how I'm mixing it all together, I'm using 12 unsalted butter sticks, 4 pounds of powdered sugar, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon powder, and 1/3 cup of shortening, 2 pinches of salt, and 1.5 tablespoons of almond extract. And I'm using almond milk to help it all cream together. Now, before I continue, let me tell you. So as this is mixing, what I'm going to let it do is incorporate really well and get rid of all these lumps, but I'm going to keep adding powdered sugar. And as it gets more thick and heavy and firm, I'm going to then go ahead and add my almond milk. That's what I'm using. Again, link down below for all the tools that I'm using. But I'm going to add my almond milk in here. And then I'll add more powdered sugar. And what I'm looking for is the right consistency, okay? I know a lot of people like to say baking is a science and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. I'm not really like that. I'm more of a, texture and taste type of girl. So this recipe I gave you is the just about amounts that I use, because I go by texture and I go by taste. You need a little more powdered sugar and you may need a little more almond extract. Whatever you're looking for, that's how you make your buttercream. And I'm looking for fluffy and delicious. Okay, so now you see how it's gathering up in a ball, and my mixer is still on just 1. I'm only moving it between 1 and 2 speed, but it's going a little more slower now because that's how dense it's becoming. It's becoming heavier. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of my almond milk. A little bit goes a long way. You don't need to add so much. Like, you don't, just start off with like a freaking tablespoon. That's it. Okay, let's scrape our sides off. This helps get all the ingredients that are stuck around the bowl incorporated. Now that I've gone ahead and mixed that up, I still have powdered sugar around, but that's fine. I don't want to fully mix it on yet. I'm going to go ahead and add in some cinnamon. Now again, we want this to be the same flavor as a cake because I don't want an abundance of so many different flavors because we already have the bourbon and the almond and the cinnamon and the pineapple. I want to add in a pinch of salt, and then we're going to add in some almond extract. And now I'm going to mix it together. That's why I stopped it when I still had the powdered sugar around, so that way I haven't incorporated everything just yet. Okay, so I'm just scraping my sides here of all the ingredients that didn't get put in, and then you want to make sure you mix it in really good, and then scrape that bottom part also, because sometimes your mixer will miss that. See that fluffy, smooth texture? But also it's quite dense, it's very thick. So perfect, we're gonna set this aside and get ready to start torting our cakes and layering and frosting, which is what I'm excited about. Really quickly, I never explained what the filling was. It is pineapple chunks and bourbon pecan caramel sauce by Stonewall. Delicious, scrumptious. It doesn't matter what kind of pineapple chunks you use, whichever one you like. To get the caramel sauce all nice and gooey, you want to go ahead and melt it. You can use the jar and just throw it in the microwave for a couple of seconds. Just a couple of seconds, you don't need it that long. All right, so we already frosted our top tier. So now we're gonna frost our bottom tier. Now I have my cakes, they're already torted and they're ready to go. I have all my fillings that I'm gonna put in. It's going to be pineapple chunks, I have the bourbon pecan caramel sauce, and I have some buttercream in a piping bag because we have to create dams around the layers of the cake that will have the fillings in it. If you don't know what a dam is, don't worry, I'm going to show you. And I have all my cake boards, and the cake boards I have are the Wilton cake boards that come with a hole in the middle of it. And this dowel has already been measured to fit in this hole. And you guys already saw me cover my board. I already glued my pole in. Okay, scratch that. You did not see me create the board on this tutorial. I actually uploaded it earlier today. So check out that video at the eye at the top, or just go back to my YouTube channel and you can check it out right there. Go, click it. Click it now so you can see how I made this board and put it together for you. And what you want to make sure you do is get a straight edge ruler, one that has a flat bottom and of course a straight side, a 90 degrees, so that way you can tell if your pole is standing straight up and down. So you want to make sure you grab one of those and double check that before you even get started. So what I'm going to do is, this is a little different now because the cake is so tall. We're going to do something different. I'm going to hot glue this cake board on to the cake base. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and put some frosting down on my board just to help adhere my cake to the board. Now before I slide my cake down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my 8-inch boards down and I'm going to poke right where the hole is, so that way I know, so it'll be centered on the bottom cake board. Now we're going to go ahead and frost this layer. What you want to do is you're just going to add a thick layer of buttercream all around the edge. A dam is basically like what beavers do. They use something to block the water from overflowing into where they live. So we're going to go ahead and create something that's going to block all of the stuff on the inside we're putting in the cake from falling out. Okay, so now we have our dam and we're going to insert our delicious pineapple. It helps to drain. If you're putting fruit in your cake, it helps to drain it as a filling so it doesn't add too much moisture. I mean, your fruit's already going to have that moisture in it. Now I don't want to pile the pineapple on top of each other. I just want to lay it next to each other, any empty spaces. And now our caramel filling. Okay, give it a nice push down. Add a little bit of frosting. Just 4 dowels. Cover these holes up. And for this cake, because it's going to be carrying all the weight of the top tier, we're going to add the board on top of the bubble straws and then another layer. And then we're just going to be repeating that same process every 2 layers. So now the cake has been final coated. It's still pretty chilled, so I'm not gonna put it in the fridge, but you are more than welcome to if you want to. I've taken out the top tier, and now I'm going to slide the top tier on while it's still nice and chilled so I can handle it. Okay, so if there's any gaps between the top tier and the bottom tier, you can just take a little bit of that buttercream and frost it around so that way it all looks nice, smooth, clean, and cohesive. After I was done, I set it all back in the fridge to become nice and chill so I can get it ready to decorate. Okay. This is heavy. One second. Okay. All right. Now that I got the cake back on the table, isn't she beautiful? I'm completely in love with her, and she's giant. We can't even fit her entire self in the frame. So I have all of my goodies that's gonna go on this cake, and I'm gonna go ahead and start decorating her. I don't have any pre-notion of what she's gonna look like. I just know what I want to put on top of her. I have some strawberries, some figs, some pineapple chunks. I have some cherries, two different flavored macaroons, some gold luster, and I also have the pecan caramel here. And then I have some flowers that are ready to go on her also. Let's just put her all together.
It's all the same, but some things never change. I couldn't stop and say no. It's all the same, but you won't take the blame, even when you are blowing up. Oh my, you're my broken love. Nobody's gonna save her now. Oh my, you're my broken love. So come on, let me show you how. It's all the same, but some things never change. I couldn't stop and say no. It's all the same, but You won't take blame, even when you are blowing up. Oh my, you're my broken love. Nobody's gonna save and oh my, you're my broken love. So come on, let me show you how. Oh my, you're my broken love. Oh my, you're my broken love.
All she wrote, folks. We are done with this tutorial. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you like the flavors. I hope you bake this. And if you do, tag me in it on Instagram at no, that's not my Instagram anymore. It's Jalena Simpson, my name. Lord, I'm eventually going to get that correct. If you notice in this digital, you'll see the flowers are dead. This cake has sat in my fridge for a little over a week, maybe a little bit longer, and I was just super busy and I never took the time to actually just cut into the cake. And then I officially decided it's really hard for me to cut into my cakes, especially when I love them so much. So that's why it always takes me so long. I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to keep them forever, but I couldn't. Flowers were dying. I was like, it has to go. But even though I cut into it a few weeks later, it was still delicious. So good. So good. So again, if you make this cake, make sure you hit me up so I know that you've enjoyed these crazy flavors that I came up with. Make sure you head over to my Instagram and follow me. It's at Jalena Simpson. And make sure you go check out my Patreon. That's the link down below where it's going to have the recipe for the buttercream and the actual cake. Thank you again for coming for another Fake It With Me. Fake It With Me will be back live in November. I'll see you guys later. Bye. I love her. I love her. I love her, and when you follow, I follow. He may go.